In 5 feet, your destination will be on the left.
This cannot be the way back to the car. Okay, Google, where am I?
You are currently in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I could have told you that. Thanks for being so helpful. Oh, shoot. Okay, Google, how much battery do I have on my phone?
Your battery will last you 3 more seconds. It stinks to be you.
Great. And my phone's dead. Well, guys, it looks like I'm in a bit of a pickle. I am lost out in the woods. Cannot find my car. My phone just died, so it's pretty much useless. Looks like I'm gonna have to use my wits in order to survive out here until I find my way back to civilization. Now, I do know for a fact that there is a pond or a lake somewhere around here, and that probably has fish in it. So if I can get fish out of that lake, I can have food and I can survive. I have nothing really on me except my phone and my wallet. My phone's dead and my wallet doesn't really have anything that useful in it. So if I'm able to scrounge around and find some stuff to make a fishing setup and I catch some fish, I can theoretically survive out here. Now, for a fishing setup, I'm going to need a pole, which is pretty easy. There's lots of wood around here. I'm gonna need some line, which is gonna be a little more difficult. I'm gonna need a hook and I'm gonna need some bait. With that being said, we better start searching around here and let's see what we can find that might be useful in building this fishing setup. Alrighty guys, like I mentioned, I am stranded in the middle of nowhere. So it looks like I'm gonna have to kind of live off the land until I can find my way out of here. And I think the best option for finding food is gonna be fishing. Now there's a number of challenges that present themselves when it comes to building a functional fishing setup. I have to find something for a line, I have to find something for a rod, and I have to make a hook. And I'm hoping to make some sort of a lure or find some sort of bait in order to catch some fish. Because if I can catch fish, then I can survive out here because I have a good food source. Obviously, there's water right here. There's a nice creek, so I have plenty of water. But finding food is the challenge. So, without further ado, I think I'm gonna start rummaging around, looking around in this riverbed, see if I can't find something I can use to make a fishing setup. The first order of business is the hook, because that's obviously the most difficult part, is finding something to make a hook out of. Let's do it. Alrighty guys, I'm just gonna look around this river bottom, see if I can't find something worth using. The nice thing about a river bottom, obviously, is that the water washes away and reveals a lot of stuff buried in the dirt. I'm hoping to find some discarded piece of metal or something I can fashion into a hook. Let's see what we can find. Alright, so I just found something potentially useful right here. An old metal bar of some sort, all rusty obviously, very old. There's another piece right here. So there's some pieces of metal. Obviously there was humans here at some point. So this is a good sign. If I can find a big piece of metal like this, hopefully I can find something that I can craft into a hook. Let's keep looking. Got some old wood right here. It's got some old nails in it. This might work. Alrighty guys, I just found an old piece of wood right here. As you can see, it's kind of half buried down in the ground there. There's nails in it. There's also little staples in it. This is fantastic. I think I can make a hook out of this. There is another type of staple in this old piece of wood. If I can pull this up here and turn it around. As you guys can see, there were some old staples in this thing, and if I flip it back around, there is one of them protruding right there. So I'm actually going to try and use this for the hook. The metal is still pretty pliable, and I think I can bend it into the shape of a hook, but the metal is also thicker. So it's going to allow me to make a little bit of a beefier hook, and I should be able to refine the point on this one a little better. So let's go ahead and make this. The first thing I want to do is put a bend in this so I can kind of see where I am, and then I'm going to go ahead and try to sharpen it. The only problem is this is a little bit thicker and I can't really bend it with my hands, so I'm going to have to use some rocks. Just going to try and use this rock for some leverage. Ooh, that is quite tough. Let's see. There we go, getting a little bit of a bend. I was able to get some sort of a bend, and the only problem is this part of the hook is way too long. I need to kind of shave that down a little bit, so what I'm going to do is just try to sand this part down so the hook is a little more uniform. Alright, so as you can see, I ground down this part so that the shank of the hook is a little bit longer. Now I'm going to go ahead and start to sharpen the tip. Alrighty guys, hook is done. I'm pretty confident that this hook especially will hook a fish if a fish bites it. Alright, we got the hooks out of the way. Now it's time to move on to what I'm going to use for line. Alright, so my original plan for fishing line was to use some of the thread from my socks in order to make some sort of a line, but just looking at the thread from the socks, I'm not able to pull long enough strands off of it, and it seems pretty frail, so I don't think it will hold up to a fish. Thankfully, I've just spotted something in the water that I think will fix my problem. You see this thing in the water here covered with algae? That, my friends, is some very old, decrepit string that has just been laying in this river. There's a bunch under this log. As you guys can see, the string's been in the water for a while. It's got all kinds of moss on it and it's pretty nasty, but I think I can definitely use this as some form of fishing line. Some of it's stuck under this moss right here. Where does it go? It continues to go. Continues to go. More and more of it. All right. Sweet. All right, so this is definitely going to work for fishing line. The only problem is this stuff is fairly thick. Let me show you right here. As you can see there, this stuff is fairly thick, and I don't think it's going to work for me to try and tie this to my fishing hooks. So what I'm going to have to do is make some sort of a leader from my fishing hook to attach to this heavier cord. So what I'm thinking about doing is pulling some thread out of my socks, doubling it over on itself, till it gets a little stronger, and making some sort of a leader that I can tie to my hook and then in turn tie to this heavier line. Because like I said, trying to tie this heavy line to a tiny little hook is probably not going to work too well. Right here. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is kind of deconstruct this sock and get some of the thread. The great thing about rocks is that when you fracture them, you can actually get some nice sharp edges. Like this one right here, as you can see, nice sharp fragment I got off that rock. This should cut. Hey, look at that. It kind of cuts. It's kind of cutting. A little bit. Should be able to tear it from here. Alright, there we go. Gonna try and pull a nice long thread out of this sock that I can use to make the leader. I'm gonna need a couple threads because I want to splice them together and make it a little stronger, because one thread on its own I don't think is gonna be strong enough. There's a good thread right there. That's a quality thread. That's actually like an elastic thread or something. Cool bananas. Got a decent thread here that I can use to make that leader. Alright, that's definitely a better one. Alright, so I went ahead and put a couple strands together. This is going to form my leader. What I'm going to do is just kind of spin these into kind of a thin little cord. And then I'm just going to tie a couple knots down through this piece of leader to hold all these strands together. Alright, so I was able to make a thin piece of leader. The next step is to attach this leader to the main line, so I'm just going to do that by tying a loop in this main line right here. Just a very simple loop, nothing crazy. I'm going to go ahead and tie a knot real quick. There you go right there, the leader is tied on to the main line like that. I'll be able to hook my hooks down here, and I got a nice little bit of line that's not going to be so big and bulky. Hopefully it'll help deceive the fish into biting the hook. Went ahead and tied it to the leader using kind of a slip knot. Hopefully it holds really well. And then I have the main line right here. The last thing I want to do before I start fishing is make a bobber of some sort, and I don't really have any resources to make a bobber, but the one thing I thought I could use is my shoes. As you can see, the bottom of my tennis shoes are made of foam. If I can find some way to cut a piece of this foam off and tie it to my line, that'll be very handy as a little bobber. I'll be able to see when I get the bites, and it's also going to give me some more weight to be able to swing that bait out. So let's look around and see if we can't find something that we can use to cut a piece of my shoe off and in turn make a bobber. Alright, so I was poking around in the leaves and I found this. This is an old piece of an old bottle, as you can see there, and it's got some glass still on it. That glass actually has quite a sharp edge. So let's see if we can use this to cut a piece of my shoe off. It should be sharp enough here. Man, that is tough. As you guys can see, I am cutting through it. It's coming slowly but surely. Alright, after all that work, I was able to get a tiny little piece of foam off my shoe. That was a lot harder than I thought, but like I said, I got this nice little piece of foam right here. I'm going to attach to my line. This should make a decent little bobber. It's very, very buoyant, and hopefully that'll help me catch a fish. Alright, so to attach this piece of foam to my line, I'm just going to go ahead and tie a loop in my line about where I want the bobber to go. So let's go like right here. Just tied a little knot, then I'm just going to seat that foam in there and just try to cinch it down just like that, and that should hold. Okay, there we go. We got our bobber, we got our leader, and we got our hook. Alrighty guys, so I'm in the woods right now and I'm looking for a stick to use as a pole. I want something that's fairly long because I don't have a lot of line. I don't want to be able to just flop a lot of line out there. I want something that's relatively long, like a cane pole, so I can just stretch that over the water, and in order to set the hook, I can just lift up on it instead of trying to pull all that slack line. So I'm looking for something relatively thin, but also long with a nice floppy tip. Let's look around, let's see what we can find. All right, I think I just found my stick right here. This one right here. It goes up pretty far. It is dead, but I think it should still work. I'm just gonna snap it off at the base. Just gonna step on it and it should break. Should break. All right, so I broke that off. As you can see, here's the stick. Pretty long, probably around, I don't know, 6 feet, 7 feet. Just gonna go ahead and clear off some of these branches right here. Like I said, I'm just gonna pop off these branches and clean the stick up a little bit. It's a little bit heavy, but it's definitely got the length that I want. If you use a short pole, then you're gonna have to pull in all that line. You're not gonna get a very solid hook set. With a long pole, I can be right out over the bobber and all I have to do is jerk up, and that should set the hook in the fish's mouth. As you guys can see right here, this is the pole. Pretty long, a little bit floppy, a little bit heavy, but it should get the job done. Alrighty guys, as you've seen so far, I've been able to scrounge up a fishing setup. I have a line, I have a rod, I have a hook, and I have a bobber. There's a nice body of water over there that I'm going to attempt to fish in. The only thing left is bait, and for that, I'm just gonna get a stick right here, dig around in the soil till I find some worms. Let's do it. Pretty straightforward stuff, just using the stick to kind of dig through the soil. There's a good worm right there. As you can see, nice worm right there. All right, we got some bait. Oh, that was a fish. Got one. Yes! Oh no, he came off. Oh! Had a bluegill on. Scared me half to death. I was distracted, I looked away. Oh, I got the heart pumping. Yes! 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 I got a fish. I got a fish. Look at this. Look at that. It's a bluegill. It's a nice fat one too. Look at that, guys. Pegged him right in the mouth. It totally worked, guys. We caught a fish on this survival fishing setup. Fantastic. Let's get another one. Oh. Had him. And I lost my hook. Just sheared my hook off on that last fish. So as you guys can see, I was able to catch fish with my survival fishing setup. Sadly, I hooked into another fish and my leader snapped. I was actually kind of afraid that would happen because the leader I was using was like thread from my sock and it was very, very thin. But nevertheless, we caught a fish, which is a plus. It means I have some food, at least for a little bit. I don't know how long I'm gonna be out here. Wait, do you hear that? Listen. It sounds like a vehicle. Sounds like there might be a road nearby. Come on. My car! Yes! It's good to see you again, my old friend. Well guys, there you go. Hope you enjoyed this episode of the Survival Fishing Challenge. I gotta say, these are a lot of fun to make, and I guess theoretically, if you're ever lost in the woods and you find the right materials laying out in the woods, you can indeed build a fishing setup, and if you find a pond full of hungry fish, that fishing setup can catch you fish. Thank you guys for watching this video. I have a lot of fun making these videos. Granted, the survival videos take a lot of time to make. I've been working on this video now for about 2 weeks. but I'm happy to have it done. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, let me know down in the comments below. And if you want to support the channel, check out the links in the description. There are links to my Signature Series swim baits, as well as some Amazon affiliate links. If you click on those links, I get a little bit of kickback, and it helps me to keep making videos. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, stay hooked. I'll see you later.